Hey guys, so welcome back to part 2 of my finding my new horse video. So if you haven't watched part 1, you don't have to watch it, but it does provide a lot of context and insight as to what a crazy journey this has been. But yeah, in this video I'll just be covering the actual horse shopping part of it all. So I inquired about and or looked at over 20 horses. I had somewhat specific criteria, so 5 to 7 year old and 14 to 15 two hands high was ideal, give or take a little for a great horse, and one that ticked most other boxes. I was only really interested in looking at mares initially, or a really great gelding, but I did inquire about and view a few stallions, as they would have that backup option I was talking about, which would be to sell or utilise as a breeding horse if they decided to kamikaze themselves. But of course this would mean that the horse would have to be of breeding quality. I wasn't overly fussed if they were green or unbroken, but something even just slightly proven would be a big bonus. I wanted something that would be relatively fuss-free with not too many vices, because I can deal with horses that have a lot of shit in them when it's client horses, but when it's my money, time and effort that I'd be spending on the horse, I would like to spend it well, and I just want something to enjoy and train, not something that I have to fix and retrain, as I already have to deal with enough of those through my business. The biggest part of my criteria was I wanted something that would be safe to take out on my own and in company, which seems increasingly difficult to find. And I wanted something that was a decent height with suitable conformation for a heavy workload, with fairly good straight legs that just didn't resemble twisties. I wanted something that would be able to cover ground and didn't have a short, choppy stride. I wasn't limiting myself to specific breeds, but it was mainly Arabians and Standardbreds that fit my criteria. I viewed a few horses and none of them really stood out to me except for a little grey that I was quite fond of. She was a compact type. We referred to her as being a little bit of a nugget. She was sensitive but a really sweet little mare. She was a little suspicious of me to begin with, but that was to be expected. She really grew with confidence as I started to play with her a bit more, and I also got to meet her sire, who is now gelded, and he was a really lovely type and seemed to be super friendly and confident, but she just didn't quite tick all my boxes, as she was unbroken, unproven, and relatively unhandled for a 4.5-year-old, as she had been let to grow. And for those that don't know, Arabians can be a very slow maturing breed, taking up to like 7 to 9 years to fully mature. So it would still be a while before I could present a decent workload to her. I did visit a lovely stud near me, but again all of the horses were pretty much unbroken and or unproven. I got to meet the dams and sires of most of the horses. They had 2 main stallions there. I only got really videos of one of them, and then they had a young 4-year-old stallion who was also for sale to the right home. I did have a think about him, as he was fairly well developed for a 4-year-old, and I really liked his dad, which is the liver chestnut here. But I was more keen on a mare due to already having a young colt. There were 3 mares in particular that we had a bit more of a play with, that I kind of liked. There was a little 4-year-old bay, a 6-year-old chestnut, and a 9-year-old bay. The 4-year-old mare was just a little too undeveloped and had so much growing to do, but she was the most sensible out of all of them. The 6-year-old had really amazing movement, but she was very flighty and a bit reactive. And then the 9-year-old, I really liked her. She was a pretty strong type and had lovely movement, and she seemed to be pretty sensible, though she was 9 years old and hadn't been ridden in years, and had pretty much been left in a paddock since then, from my understanding. So by this point I was looking interstate as well, as there wasn't a huge amount in WA that I was really keen on, and a few cool ones popped up over east. Shopping interstate does of course come with its risks, which I've been made well aware of, and I made sure that I had a solid checklist to go through when inquiring about horses and requesting photos and videos. So this just included a couple things like videos of floating, being mounted, ridden on a contact, ridden on a loose rein, riding in company, riding out alone, any videos from shows or outings, and anything that may just demonstrate the horse's demeanour, and then just photos of the conformation and the legs. If I was buying interstate, I knew I wanted to get x-rays of the back and hocks, and I knew I wanted to check in with the vets when booking a pre-purchase exam that standard practices were being held and no corners were being cut, as I've heard of some really slack examinations being done before. There was one mare in particular that ticked every single box, and as soon as I saw her ad on Facebook, I just fell in love. She was a great height at 15 hands high, a little older at 9.5 years old, but she was started late as an 8-year-old and had been well preserved. She was by the grey stallion El Shadiq, and she was the last horse bred by Sylvia Archer, who bred some really great endurance horses. Oh, and by the way, I did get permission to share all these photos and videos. There was videos of everything I wanted to see and more. She was quiet and even suitable for kids to ride, and had already done some endurance rides up to 40 kilometres with perfect vet cards of all A's and 1s. The thing was that she was in Queensland, so I messaged the owner. I was like, hey, would you be open to selling Interstate? And they said that they would be, which was really exciting news. I had a good long chat with the owner on the phone, and we both had pretty similar ideas in regard to horse keeping and attitudes about horses. The mare seemed like everything I was after and more. What I really liked was that she was reportedly safe and sensible, but not boring. She had her moments that made life interesting, and she sounded like a really funny little personality. I was originally going to get my friend to view her on my behalf, but I knew someone else that knew the horse personally, and they spoke very highly of her, and I felt like I'd seen everything I needed to see on the owner's Facebook timeline. There was already videos of her being floated both on and off the float, ridden bareback, ridden bitless, riding out alone and in company, riding next to a bike, riding both in front and behind horses when with company, her being mounted, her at her first show, walking through water, giving kids rides, walking under verandas and between tight spaces, going over some small jumps, etc., etc. Like, there was so much for me to see there, and these videos were just posted all over the owner's Facebook over the last year and a half that she had owned her. Like, they weren't staged for sale, so it was just a really great insight as to what the horse is supposedly like. We put a deposit down on the 12th of June and had her vetted at the earliest convenience on Wednesday the 22nd of June. A few minor things came up that didn't bother me. So the first thing that the vet pointed out was that she was missing the tip of her left ear, which I already knew about, and I knew how she lost it as well. I actually liked it and thought it was really cute. It made her unique, so that was cool. She was slightly pigeon-toed in the front legs that you could only really notice when you picked up her feet. Like, it was just so subtle. The vet sent me photos of this as well, and I wasn't bothered by that. She had some slight hooks at the back of the mouth that would easily be corrected with a dental appointment. The hock x-rays were clean. The back x-rays revealed what was technical kissing spine, as there was a narrowed space between two vertebrae, though they weren't actually touching. And the vet palpated her back and there was no pain there. The vet seemed to think that she may have been born with that conformation. She had only been under saddle for a year and a half, as she was started at 8 years old, so she was fully mature. She had a fair natural carriage, and he reckons that they looked like they just hadn't moved in a while. But still, I asked the vet, I was like, hey, can you give me your dry, honest answer? Do you think that this is at risk of proper kissing spine? And he just said simply, like, with the correct work, no. So I wasn't overly fussed about that. And also, surgery for KS has been proven to be quite successful, so if that was something that needed to be considered in a few years, should it progress to that point, I was very prepared to undertake that risk. The disappointing part of the whole vetting revolved around this little thumb-sized swelling on the left hind fetlock. The vet actually did a free x-ray on this area, which was very nice of him, but he found nothing except for some very mild arthritis, which he nor I were concerned about. He also was aware that I wanted to aim for, decent endurance with this horse, and he was familiar with endurance horses. He just really made the point that she would just need good maintenance and correct work as any horse would. Upon the trot up, she came up 1 out of 5 lame on that leg with the minor swelling. With a flexion test in that area, she came up 2 out of 5 lame. She passed all the other flexion tests fine, which, may I add, not many horses do, particularly by that, sort of 10-year-old age. The vet mentioned that he thought she may have just stood in a hole, but she did still present as lame with nothing appearing on the x-rays, so there was no real conclusion as to what had caused it. We just asked the owner to tough rock it and we would take videos when the swelling was gone. The next day, which was Thursday the 23rd of June, the swelling had gone down a fair bit, so they took videos at lunchtime and sent them through. I recognised that she still looked off, but I wanted to know whether the vet thought that she'd improved in that 24 hours when the swelling had died down, as I wasn't there the day that she got vet checked and I didn't see any videos from that day, so I had nothing to go off. I waited 2.5 days before I got a response from the vet after I sent the videos, so on Saturday the 25th, late afternoon, he said that she presented the same in those videos from Thursday lunchtime as she did when he vetted her on Wednesday afternoon. By this point, I was thinking, well, hey, it's been a fair few days of rest, so I asked the owner if she could take some trot-up videos again of what she was like now. This was really the make or break point of the sale. If we still recognised her as lame, we were just going to get our deposit back and pass up. So on Sunday the 26th of June, late morning, we received the trot-up videos. Immediately, I noticed a difference. She looked much better, though I began to overanalyze the videos and I felt biased as I knew exactly where the lameness was and I knew exactly how it had presented itself originally. So I sent them on to a few friends who I knew were quite good at detecting lameness to see what they thought of it. It was reassuring when they had to ask which leg was meant to be lame. We also recognised that the trot was done on both a downward and a side-to-side slope, which would undeniably cause a slight hip dip to either side, depending which way she was trotting. And we had videos of her trotting both ways from the side, so we could compare, as well as a video from behind and the front. After a fair bit of discussion with a few people, in the end I came to the conclusion that I was confident in her level of soundness, and I messaged the owner saying I wanted to go through with the sale. That afternoon I sent the money through and we organised her transfer of ownership. And my heart was just very happy after all of the shit that I had been through over the last year and a half. I just was like, this has got to be my lucky break. I had already reserved a spot on the truck for her a few days prior, knowing that if she came sound, I would purchase her. So I contacted the company on Monday the 27th and confirmed her transportation. So we are currently waiting for the trucking company to pick her up, and then it will be about a week's travel to get her here. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks I will have a pony here. I'm just beyond excited and I can't wait to meet her and get to know her and just get out there and have fun again. So yeah, the next video you'll probably see will be her coming home and like what I'll be doing with her to settle her in and support her after such a big trip. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!